Occasionally, you may find yourself wanting to know where your money is going. And yes, you can look at a profit and loss statement or an income statement and see what your expenses are, but those are grouped by category and they don't always give you the level of detail that you're necessarily looking for. So, one of the things that I like to do on a periodic basis is I like to run a report by vendor so that I can see exactly who my money is going to, who, do I have multiple vendors that I use for the same product or service? Who am I spending more with versus who am I spending less with? Or the number one reason that I like to run a report by a vendor is to make sure that I'm not still paying for any recurring subscriptions that I'm no longer using. Because over time, we just get busy and we sort of stop using things and don't really think about it too much because we figure, oh, we'll come back to that at some point, or, I just don't need it this month, but I might need it in the future. But then next thing you know, several months goes by and you're still paying for the subscription and you haven't used it in 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it might be. So this is a really great way to catch those things and then just make sure that you go out and cancel those subscriptions because you really don't want to be spending money on stuff that you're not using in your business. So I'm going to show you how you can run a report to do this, but I also want to share 2 reasons why this method may not be effective for you. So let's just get started on how we even run the report. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm in a QuickBooks Online sample company here, and I'm going to click Reports on the left-hand side. And I'm going to search Transaction List by Vendor. And then I'm going to choose this year. You can set your date range to whatever you want it to be. And then this is going to give me a list of all of my vendors and the transactions associated with each one. So this should be a pretty comprehensive list of all of your transactions of money going out of your business. But there are 2 circumstances in which this report may not be of much use to you or won't be as effective as it could be. The first reason would be if you're entering your credit card payments as just an expense to the credit card company, and then on that expense, you're breaking it out by what the expenditures were. So you might have had, this much to meals and entertainment, this much for gas, this much for whatever, and you're doing that all on the check versus using the feature in QuickBooks that's actually meant for credit cards, which is entering them as an expense, but to the credit card account or to a credit card credit, and having it go to the liability account. I have a whole nother video on this that you may want to check out, but for the purpose of this, I'm just letting you know that if you're entering credit card purchases that way, rather than as individual transactions using the vendor name, then those transactions, they'll show up on this report, but they're all going to show up underneath the name of your credit card company. So whoever you make that check out to, they're all going to be under there. So it's not going to be very clear who you actually spend that money with. Now, I have all of my recurring subscriptions going on my credit card. So if I were doing it that way, I'd have no way to be able to see if I have any subscriptions that I'm no longer using. So I definitely recommend checking out that video. But for right now, the other reason that this might not be the most effective is if you are not assigning vendor names when you're entering transactions from the bank feed. So let me show you what I mean. I'm just going to duplicate this tab, which, quick little tip for you, if you're working in QuickBooks Online and you'd really like to have more than one screen open at one time because you need to look at something else, if you're in Chrome, you can just right-click on the tab up here and choose Duplicate. And it will duplicate it over here, and then you can go wherever you want to without losing the data that you had on this other tab over here. So I'm going to go to the bank feed here just to show you an example of what I'm talking about. So you see that we have transactions in the bank feed. And I find this mistake happening a lot when I am working with a client for the first time and just kind of reviewing their books is, when you look at this, it's certainly deceiving. It looks like they've already assigned a vendor name here. It looks like they've already assigned a rental to this transaction. And if you know that that's correct and that's who that's for, you'd have really no reason to think that it's not ready to go into QuickBooks. But the fact of the matter is all that is a description from your bank, and it's not actually assigning a vendor to the transaction in QuickBooks. in order to do that, you need to actually assign it a payee here. So when you click on this, it'll open up the details. And then in this drop-down list, we need to choose a rental, which in this case, it seems, let's see, are they even in here? No, they're not. So we would have to add them in this case. And then, and now it has assigned a payee. So like if you look at this one here, yes, they've assigned it to Books by Bessie, and that's good. So whenever you're entering transactions from the bank feed, you want to make sure this field always has something filled in, and preferably that it would be filled in with the correct name. So that is just another little quick tip for you. If you've been entering transactions and you haven't been filling this in, then what you're going to have on your report, and I'll just add one here so you can see, and I'm going to refresh this. You are going to have, oh, it's not really showing up for me here, but you'll probably have a bunch of transactions. I'm thinking they'd be at the bottom that say unassigned, or they may not show up on this list at all, which it looks like in this case it's not showing up on the list at all if it doesn't have a vendor name assigned. So if you've entered transactions that way, this report is not going to be very helpful. But if you begin as of today adding that name when you're entering transactions from the bank feed, you will be able to run this report and get the information that you need. So when I run this report, I simply just scroll right down and I say, am I still using this? Is this a, legitimate thing? If it's something that I see, I haven't used in quite, I know I haven't used it in quite a while, but I see that I'm still paying for it on a monthly basis, then right away I want to go out and I want to just eliminate that expense by canceling my subscription if possible. So hopefully you found this video helpful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us, prosperitybookkeeping.net, or you can give us a call at 920-309-6660. Thank you and have a stupendous day.